missed this one.
So we're going to call to order the meeting, the regular council meeting on Monday, June 23rd, 2025. First, we'll have the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized the Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you, Walalan. Next is the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Next is a moment of reflection. Deputy Mayor.
Moment of reflection, June 2025. We have Gertrude Gauthier from Beldoon, Mabel Lapointe of Nash Creek, and Ronald McIntosh of Beldoon.
We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Can we get a motion then to accept the agenda?
M 2025-06-23-59, that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Any statements of a conflict of interest are to be registered with the clerk. Next is the adoption of minutes. This is for the special meeting minutes of May 6th, the Committee of Whole Council meeting of May 12th, and the regular council meeting minutes of May 20th. Can I get a mover?
M 2025-05-23-60, that the minutes of the special meeting of May 6, 2025, the Committee of Whole Council meeting of May 12, 2025, and the regular meeting of May 20th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. We have no presentations, petitions, or delegations, I believe. Next is the statements by members of council, and I'll start. The first one is the acknowledgement of the passing of former mayor of Jacket River, Francis Bev Furlot. So, let me start by saying that in the late 50s and 60s and 70s, the village of Beldoon, and Jacket River, which was a separate entity at the time, really had its zenith of growth and development, economically and in other ways as well. And that was due in large part to the number of strong and really great civic and business leaders that we had at the time. And one of those leaders was Bev Furlot. And Bev, like a lot of his contemporaries, Rayburn, to mention one, and there were others, who really started the development of this municipality and of this region. And there are others too, business-wise. We also mentioned tonight about the passing of Ron McIntosh. And Ron was one of those leaders in terms of business as well. And there were others. And it's just, it's right to acknowledge all that they've done and the fact that the municipality that we have, as strong as it is due in large part to them. So we acknowledge their efforts and their contributions to our municipality and to our region. If anyone else on council would like to say a few words.
May, Your Worship. It was my pleasure to meet Bev in 1976 when I moved up here as a sales representative with General Electric, and Bev was the purchasing agent at the smelter. Truly a professional in his business, and it was a pleasure to do business with him. When I moved to Jacket River or Beldoon, the year after, it all amalgamated into Beldoon, and I became a member of the Royal Canadian Legion. Bev at that time was the treasurer at the Legion and did an outstanding job, for our Legion for the 10 years I was there. I think he was the treasurer for a total of 20 years in total. When Bev's health became an issue and stepped aside, I became the treasurer at the Legion, and it was a flawless transition because of the type of person that Bev was. And, I know that he has been a rock here in our community for many, many years and deserves all of the recognition that he has been given. And again, I will say the mayor well said. So thank you.
Any other?
I didn't know him very well, but I know that he was in the community, and they're one of the nicest families that you could, they're involved in the community still. So they were a nice bunch of people. So yes, he certainly was involved in our village, and it was sad. I was sad to see that, that he was so sick and that he's gone.
Yep. And, just to finish by saying to Ann and the family, condolences, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. And also to remember, all of those, that was the time, there were so many people that you could choose in Beldoon. Your father, never even talk about, former mayor of Beldoon, all that he did well. And you think about Gordon Carmichael, you could go a list a mile long. But the idea is that they're all grouped together as one in terms of what they contributed. Okay, so if no one has anything else to add, I'll go to the next one, which is policing in the village. And I have in brackets summer, because, summer brings its own different kinds of challenges and issues in terms of policing. But there is one thing I wanted to talk about, because CAO Lee and myself met Sergeant Dulac back in the fall, and back in the spring. One thing he did mention that I think was of interest, and I think it would be helpful to see if we're there yet, is, when I mentioned to him about, some of the challenges that we have, with the fact that the police, they do their best to patrol, they do their best to be here, but they can't always be here. And you can't always depend on just, and whether it's, graffiti or break and enter, or whether it's ATVs, whatever it is, it's hard to expect them to be here all the time. And he told me that that's really not an issue if the village has high-resolution cameras placed in strategic areas of the village. And I think that's the thing that we need to look at, because if they can identify through a video, they don't need to catch the person at the time. So, and we've had, again, that's so I think that we should perhaps ask CAO Lee if we need as a council to contemplate maybe increasing or putting some money into getting our infrastructure in that regard. Because if that could help our policing issue, then that's a worthwhile investment that I would think. And, we have, most of our buildings, our municipal buildings, are set up in strategic places. The rec center, the fire halls, right? They're all in places where there's heavy traffic. So if you put high-resolution cameras there, and they can, they can do the job of patrolling, then we should seriously look at that. So, anyone have any comments about that, or it seems like an obvious help to our situation?
Yeah, I'm going to take it one step further and make a motion that council approve that CAO Lee obtain quotes on obtaining, I don't know what the right number would be, but I guess we should find out what one cost and then go to see how many we would really like to have after that. So I would suspect that we should be looking at, I'm going to say, somewhere between 1 and 10. And with that said, at least finding out what the price is and bring it back to council at the earliest possible convenience. So making a motion that CAO Lee go out and obtain quotes on purchasing high-resolution cameras.
Any a seconder
I'll second it.
on the question?
Yeah, I agree that there should be cameras in those, especially in those busy areas. I believe that there's, NB Power sells some of those cameras or rents them out, so I don't know how good they are, but I've heard that they do have some. We could go another avenue also, but yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we should have thought of this before, but yeah, thank you.
Anyone else?
There is a camera at the rec center through NB Power, so you can see what the resolution is on that one, because it monitors the playground area.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with a mover and seconder. On the question, anyone else? Dawn, did you have something? No? Okay. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. The next thing was the Port of Beldoon AGM. There was, sorry, I missed the summer beautification one. So I'll take that now. There were a couple of issues for summer beautification. One is the sweeping. It hasn't happened yet. And I remember in years past, and it's tough, year to year it's different, but we would have that done in May. Earl was on it right in May. And it's a bit of, I know our sidewalks in the Jack River area are full of rocks and pebbles, and I'm sure some of the side roads that haven't been met yet. So I just think it's one of those things that we need to push a little bit. I know they need to have rain, but we've had some rain. Like, there was probably some opportunities there that we missed, but it's almost the 1st of July, and we need to get that. So I don't know if anybody wants to add to that, but that sweeping is an issue. It needs to get done.
Yes, but I have to take my hat off to the guys the other day. They were literally sweeping the sidewalks up in Jack River manually, and I have to say, they were smart to do it. So I want to thank the guys for trying, and I know they have been, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, our public works guys are going at it all the time, right?
Do we have a sweeper?
I think we do. My understanding is that we do, but if you put it in a dry day, the bristles tend to wear. So by doing it with a wet day during the rain, it saves on that. But, so I understand that. Yeah, I just think it's, we're going to find ourselves in Beldoon days and that not being done if we don't push it.
Just another comment, if I may, Your Worship. I agree with the sweeping 100%. I don't have any issues with the statements made, but I do have an issue with the, let's say, the height of the grass along our roads. We are in a rural community. I cannot believe I'm stating this again, probably for the 10th or 15th time that I've been involved in councils, but at the end of the day, Grass is now about 3 feet high in all of the shoulders of our community. You know, we have a mower that can cut the shoulders of the grass. Canada Day is coming up. At the end of the day, I'm under the understanding that it takes about 2 weeks to get from one end of the community to the other. But here's how I'm going to say it just like this. No one is going to notice that the grass and the guardrails are cut. Everyone is going to notice that they're not. And there's the problem. You know, we have the ability, we have we can do this. At the end of the day, I don't have a clue as to why I am fighting this every single year to have this grass cut. But at the end of the day, I'm stating it again now so that I can say I stated it again. And with that said, you know, we need to get on it sooner than later. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I'd like to say something, Ron. The other day, they were cutting it down in Lower Beldoon area along the side road. So, but they were doing it manually. They were not using a side cutter. So I believe the students and Public Works were doing it manually along a guardrail, okay? I'm just saying that they have started. I'm not sure how far they've gotten, but I know what you're saying. It's not very attractive, but I believe they're working on it.
Anyone else?
But do they not have a, like you said, do they not have a machine that they can drive and get it done faster?
But along a guardrail, they can't use it, so they have to do it manually. That's why I'm saying, like, I saw them along the guardrail. So I'm not sure who can drive this trimmer, whether they can all do it, I'm not sure. So, but we do have them.
Okay. Dawn, do you want to add something?
No, I agree with him.
I tend to think that, and, you know, again, sometimes there's variables working against Public Works, and we know they're doing their absolute best. But
Just, if I may make one last comment, Your Worship. Cutting the guardrails. I do not understand why we are paying people $24, $26, $30 an hour to go out and cut guardrails. You know, we talk about summer employment. Why don't we just hire a student or two, and their job will be to keep the guardrails in the village of Beldoon cut? I believe there's something like 74 guardrails in the village of Beldoon. They will be busy all summer long cutting grass along the guardrails. At the end of the day, it comes down to we could hire 2 students and give them a summer job and free up our full-time employees to do, let's say, some more attractive type jobs than cutting grass. I'm not a believer paying somebody $24, $26, $30 an hour to cut grass when we can hire students to do the same job.
What I did see, though, were the students, I'm sorry. They were the summer students were the ones trimming it on that, what I saw.
is that worth a motion of some sort, or just what? Okay, so, but I think we're all in agreement that then that's another issue we got to attend to, right? Because it's true. It's one of those things where if it's done on a regular basis, you probably don't hear about it, but when it's not done, you're going to hear about it. So that takes care of grass cutting. The other thing I had was the guardrails itself. The guardrails itself, you know, I know this is sort of a DTI issue, but it just seems odd that the guardrails, so I know there's a guardrail on the highway that's within the limits of Beldoon that's in rough shape. There's one, I think, just coming around the curve here, that's in rough shape. So these things tend to get done in the fall, but really, they spend all summer as an eyesore, right? And you come in and it just looks like, you know, it's one of those things where how people are driving and they're looking at it and saying, how is the village not fixing that? And I know there's a DTI component to that, but surely there's got to be some way. Maybe we can get in touch with DTI and say, listen, we'll do it, we'll fix it, or we'll hire someone to fix it, or we'll get it done in some way, and you know, that comes out of whatever money we pay you for summer maintenance or winter maintenance that we work. Like, there's gotta be a better way than the only time we can get these guardrails fixed are the 3 weeks before the snow comes so that the guardrails go down again. Because virtually almost all year, those guardrails are wrecked. And there's gotta be a better way. I don't know what the solution is, but the current one doesn't work, I don't think.
Well, these guardrails, they're being damaged by snowplows through the winter. So if that's the case and it's DTI doing this, then they should be here in the spring repairing them.
I think, and we've had that, they say they will fix them in the fall. I don't think I'm wrong with that. I think this conversation, I believe, if what I've heard in years past, I don't know if that's a hard and fast rule for them, or if that's the time that they, you know, can get to it because of other things they're doing, but my understanding is that they attend to the guardrails that they can in the fall. But again, here we are all summer looking at, you know, damaged guardrails, and it looks awful. Even if your grass is cut along your guardrails, if your guardrails are mangled, how good does that look? So, I don't know what the solution is, but I think we need to find one better one than what we have right now.
Is that a possibility of sitting down with them and asking them to change from the fall to the spring? It only makes sense because they've damaged it through the winter. Why do we need to wait before the next winter starts to repair it?
I think, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I think also at that time, if you have that meeting, there's a lot of other things you can talk about too, right? It's not just the guardrails, but I would like us to have CLE organize a meeting and not ask, but say, listen, we want a meeting, right? We're paying you money for maintenance, and you can have a sit down with us. I'm sure they can take some time to have a sit down with us and get these issues dealt with. So, the unsightly premises itself, so all of those other things now, dwellings and places, places that aren't up to standard. So, first of all, I want to thank anyone who's sitting on the appeals committee. And I know we're dealing with some more appeals committee issues, but anyone who's sitting on the appeals committee, I want to thank you for doing so. We need to get some of these dwellings dealt with. Like, I had a gentleman come to me the other day at the store, and he said, do you know that there's a place down on one of the beaches that was dealt with and was okayed to, I'm not sure if it was okay to be taken down, or I can't quite remember, but it was during our last council. But one apparently isn't finished. And it's, I know, and people don't realize out there all the red tape that this goes through. This is not an easy process for council to get it done. It's not, and it's not an easy process for COLE to get it done. But we have to get some of these dilapidated places down. It just, right? Go ahead, Donna.
I was also approached at the grocery store last week from a resident concerning the house in Durham Center, the big white house. And he asked me the same thing. He said, I've gone to counselors in the past and it just seems like nothing is being done. So that was one of my questions tonight too. Why are we not, I know it's a process, but why are we not trying to push it a little bit? Because it doesn't look good either. It looks really not nice.
I just have something on that. Is it on our list to get done? Because the one you mentioned, I know the one at the beach is not on the list.
It's that big white one just before the bridge, before the old garage there, across from, just before Hunterford, right across that big old white, there's a lot of stuff in the yard and.
Oh, that one there, over there. It's probably not, no. Yeah, and there's also unsightly premises that needs to get looked at, and I do believe that there was a letter sent out, to somebody last week. but, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But when we're getting an email telling us, basically directing us that something is not being attended to, right, or not being followed, or being ignored, that takes it a step further. That bothers me even more. Because, it's one thing when you have a process that you're going through and there's obstacles. But when there's been a directive from another, a quote, agency, and it's still being ignored, that is not acceptable. And that, we all know the email that we're talking about, and that needs to be dealt with ASAP.
I just think that maybe I'm gonna speak for myself, like when I was approached, maybe we could talk to the CAO and ask him where it's at with these premises, so that when we're approached by residents, we have an answer. It's not gonna be done tomorrow, but at least we can say, well, we're here, here, or here.
Is it the fire department that goes in and accesses the building to state whether it's unsightly, unsafe, fire hazard, and then it goes on the list? Is that how this, I'm trying to understand the process? And then it starts, right? All these forms and papers and letters and things. But I believe they have to be looked at by the fire department or the fire marshal to make sure that it falls under those categories.
No, no. The process is that it takes an engineer, of which the Chaleur Regional Service Commission has one. They send them to inspect the premise, and they are the ones who decide whether it is dangerous and should be addressed, whether it be to the owner to fix it up or tear it down. He is given a 30-day notice at that time. If he doesn't comply with the 30-day notice, then the engineer can place a 30-day notice on the building advising that there will be things done, that he has 30 days to appeal. Now, we have all completed steps 1 and 2 that I just went through. The problem we're having is with step 3. We went a year without having anybody apply to be on the appeals committee. That became a problem. We sent out another notice in our messenger, and we were very fortunate, I believe, to receive 4 or 5 people who were interested in being on the committee. Problem we're having now is that the chair of the committee, even though he's working, it seems that every time they have a meeting, he has a working schedule. So I see where we have a motion later on to have a co-chairman, which is probably a very good idea to do. But in the old days, the Regional Service Commission had their own appeals committee. So it wasn't in the village's hands, but the province changed all that when they amalgamated all of the communities, making it the community's responsibility to have an appeals committee. And, we did have problems getting the committee together, not for lack of effort, but from lack of finding people who wanted to be on the committee. Because I believe we went at least a year and a half trying to find people, and we finally did. And we thought we had this in place, but the meetings always seem to get postponed because of work commitments. So with that said, the final process that we have, I believe there are 5 on our agenda to be addressed. Once the appeals committee makes a decision on those 5, we will be able to move forward. The last statement I will make is this: when Councillor Hickey talks about that premise, there is a huge difference on how things are evaluated between dangerous and unsightly, because unsightly is in the eyes of the beholder. So the homeowner may believe it's not a problem, whereas many people in the community believe it is. So unsightly is a very, very difficult road to get cleaned up. I would believe that, I'd say the best approach is maybe to approach the homeowner and ask, what kind of assistance we could offer to get it done, other than say go through the legal process. And I'm just throwing that out there because trying to prove something unsightly will be a difficult process.
And the thing, going back to something you just mentioned about the engineer and the service commission, I mean, the email was pretty clear. That was the service commission, right? That had come through. And you're right about unsightly versus dangerous. That's true as well. I think though, again, we just, the appeals committee, as you said, for not for lack of effort, we've had a difficult time really getting it off the ground. But I think the biggest favor we could do with the time that we have left in our tenure is just to make sure that the appeals committee is starting to make decisions on these. And then once decisions are starting to be made, successive councils will find it easier. So we may not be able to solve all the issues in terms of unsightly versus dangerous premises, but getting one or two solid, yes, this is going to be done, and then finding an approach, a steady approach to the others, I think will be a good start. And one last time, I really think we need to get, on that particular email, that it needs to be done and quickly. If there's nobody else, I'm going to just quickly on the Port of Beldoon AGM. It's there for anyone who wants to see it. You can take a look at it. But again, the Port of Beldoon is, it's moving along with its Green Hub initiative. And if the pieces are there, and if they can get all of the pieces to come together, then it should be really a real positive development for the economic development of northern New Brunswick. So, again, that's a great job by the port. They have a great staff there, and they have some vision and some ambition, and we wish them well. And the last one is just the congratulations to regional graduates. So all of the graduates at every level, congratulations to you. Some of them will be moving on to more academic adventures, and others will be starting to go into the workplace. But to all of them, congratulations and have a great summer. And if anybody on council wants to add something?
No, it's nice to see our kids go to bigger and better. Like we were at the grade 8 graduation on Friday, and it's really nice to see the kids, some are going to Bathurst High and some are going to DRHS. And I know that I want to thank Marilyn for going to the graduation in Dalhousie. It was I know they're very nice to go to. It's, it makes us proud to see our children move on and graduate.
Indeed. Okay, well, that wraps it up for me. Next, Councillor Burke.
We've had discussions about attracting doctors or nurse practitioner to our medical center here in Beldoon. We've even had meetings with the Minister of Health, Dr. Doran, and he came up with some very unique ideas. But along my travels, I am very close to a guy by the name of Tom Eagles, who is the mayor of Perth Andover, and he's also a Legion member. And I heard this at a Legion function, not a village function, and Tom and I were talking. But anyway, long story short, Tom mentioned that what his community did was they went out and had a drone take pictures of Perth Andover and developed that video, and council approved a budget of $5,000 a year for 3 years to offer a bonus to a nurse practitioner who would come to their community. They took the video and the information and went to the graduation ceremony, or prior to the graduation ceremony of nurse practitioners. I'm not exactly sure where that was, but anyway, he said that they made a presentation to 18 nurse practitioners and were extremely fortunate in attracting one who signed a 5-year contract to be a nurse practitioner in Perth Andover, thus solving their problem. So my point to all that is this. I would like to work with the CAO. I have already spoken with somebody who has a drone who would do the job at $500. They said, I'd do it for $500, and if the council's not happy with the results, they don't have to pay me. He would keep it for his own library. But I would much rather see the approach that CAO Lee go out and see what a professional droner would cost to have a video done of our community, so that we'll know what to evaluate, and I would suggest, in all honesty, where we are not meeting in July, because I will be making a motion shortly, but at the end of the day, this should be done during the summer months, so that we have the beautification of our community and the beaches and everything is visible and things of that nature. So with that said, it's about getting the video during the summer, because we only need this for the budget next year. We don't need this anytime soon. It's only for next year. But we should have the video when the budget comes out. So with that said, it comes down to that I would like to make a motion that CAO Lee go out and obtain quotes from a professional video operator to see what they would charge to have a video done of our community, so that could be used in future development of attracting a doctor or nurse practitioner to our medical center here in Beldoon.
Well, can we get?
There is a professional drone footage of Beldoon. It's on Facebook. You can, it's Serval or Highview or something like that. But there is drone footage of most of the village.
I think we should add to it. No, if it's out there, perfect, but I mean, let's really push this. I'm in full agreement.
You want to second it then?
Oh, sorry, I will second it, yes. But
Okay, no, well, again, just on the question, so anybody can.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like it. First of all, let's look at what's out there for the video, and it could be a good one. But I really like the idea of the bonus. I don't know if we're overstepping, because I think we discussed about that before, but it's all things that we need to look into. But I do agree that something needs to be done, because it's not moving very fast, and we've been talking about this now for a long time.
Anyone else?
If there's no other comment, just a comment on, we are not overstepping, because that is a question I asked Tom Eagles about, about offering a bonus. And he went to the minister, and what he said to me was that we cannot change their salary. But I don't know what a nurse practitioner makes, but I'm going to grab a figure and say they're paid $55 an hour. We can't change that. But as far as offering incentives, we can do that.
Okay, just before we go to the vote, but I don't want to prolong the vote, so let's just do the vote, and then I'll just something I want to add to it. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay, motion passed. Just a couple of things on that. I like the idea. When we had the meeting with if I digress for a little bit, last council, we used to have this conversation quite often. Our hands were completely tied. there was almost nothing we could do to try and entice nurse practitioner, who couldn't do anything. And we tried. And that's the word that was given to us anyways. It seems to have loosened up a little bit. Remember that meeting we had with Dr. Dorn? He said, listen, if, you can't do this, but there's a lot of other things you can do. And perks and incentives and all of that was part of it. I don't think since that meeting, and that's all of us, I don't think we've been aggressive enough, right? Because we came away with that meeting thinking, yeah, this is a great opportunity, and then we just, because that's back in February, I think, and so I think we need to be more aggressive in this, and this is maybe part of it, but we need to be more aggressive because the opportunity's there, right? To get this package together, so to complete a package, and then I think you're also right in the sense that you need to go find these people where they are, right? You can't, which brings me to another point. Last week, I was at an immigration new arrivals event in Beresford that was put on by Shirley De Silva and Emily Delac. And there were a number of health professionals in that room, new arrivals, right? So that's the kind of place you almost have to be at and then be prepared to offer something. But one person who was there, and I think is a key to this, to be honest with you, and I don't know how many of you have met her, but her name is France Roger. And she's the head of Vitalite. And the couple of meetings that I've been at with her, she really takes an interest in Beldoon. She really likes Beldoon. I don't know if, and I think, it's not to say to jump to conclusion, but I think her relationship with Amanda was really close. And I think that's part of it. I would like us as a council, if you would ask me where we can get through Landon, she's willing to have a meeting with us. And I think that she'd be a very important person. I mean, Dr. Dornan's great to meet, but the next day he's got something else he's got to do, he's going to forget about it. But our clinic is her responsibility, right? It's under her umbrella. So that is the person that we could convince, and maybe then through her, we could find places where once we get a package, she can direct us to places to offer it, right? So I'll do that. Go ahead.
I agree. It comes down to that, I don't know how the right way to phrase it is, but I'm going to say it anyway. We need a person to spearhead the whole thing and bring the information to council, but that person needs approval of council to be able to spearhead the project. So with that said, I'm willing to take that on as a project, working hand in hand with the CAO to bring the information to council as it develops. So if there is no objection to council, I would take that on personally and make it an objective. So I'll leave it at that. If there's objection, I'm willing to listen. If there's none, I'll move forward with it.
As long as it's going to move in the right direction, I'm in favor.
No decisions will be made unless they're brought to the table. That I assure you.
All right, well, I guess that if no one else has anything to say, I think that takes care of all the statements by members of council. So we go to administration reports. Are you want to take that?
Sure. So I guess there's the motion for the social and environmental grant. So I guess there are a few grant requests. Restigouche United Under 11 Girls Soccer Team, Dalhousie Nursing Home Foundation, Lauren Days Festival, and New Brunswick ALS Society.
Okay, so can I get a mover for said motion?
M 2025-06-23-61, that the grant report for June 2025 be accepted as presented and recommendations approved for the following grants. $250 to the Restigouche United U11 Girls Soccer Team, $250 to the Dalhousie Nursing Home Foundation, $250 to the Lorne Days Festival, $250 to the New Brunswick ALS Society.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second.
On the question?
Sorry, I like to for the nursing home, they've been trying to get some money to get a wheelchair wash. We have a lot of residents there, and I'd really like to bring that up to 500. I don't know if I need to reread it. I think it's a benefit to show that Beldoon is helping and supporting our seniors that are in the nursing home.
Okay, well, just to be official, maybe reread it at the amount you think is correct, and then we'll have a discussion on it. Yeah.
Okay, M 2025-06-23-61, that the grants report for June 2025 be accepted as presented and recommendation approved for the following grants. $250 to the Restigouche United U11 girls soccer team, $500 to the Dalhousie Nursing Home Foundation, $250 to the Lorne Days Festival, $250 to the New Brunswick ALS Society.
Need a seconder?
I'll second it. There's no problem there. Just a comment to I don't know how closely you read the letter. The Legion received a request from the nursing home also. And if you read the letter that was sent, they want to buy a wheelchair washing facility. And they mention in the letter that they have $21,000 and the washer costs $25,000. But if you read it, it's $25,000 American. So at the end of the day, the 21,000 Canadian is still a long ways from the 25,000 American. So I just wanted to mention that. I didn't know if everybody noticed it, but that's how it is.
Okay, anyone else? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Clerk Treasurer Colligan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, financial reports for the month of May. We'll look at the general operating fund first. We had a balance carry forward of $1,103,363.62. We had deposits of $402,853.86. We also had an HST refund of $37,063.30 and interest revenue of $3,627.67. For total incoming of $443,544.83. We had checks issued, direct payments, including payroll, of $435,845.80, and we had bank charges of $53.43. Our outstanding checks from the month of April were $224,662.74, and at the month of May, $220,631.30. This left us with a balance in the general operating fund of $1,106,977.78. The capital reserve account balance as of May 31st was $3,011,579.95. The capital operating reserve account balance, $231,391.27. And the gas tax fund balance was $772,375.52. The accounts payable as of end of May was $176,519.40, and the accounts receivable was $2,780.57. In the utility operating fund, balance carry forward at the end of April was $6,485.82. We had deposits of $1,807.81 and interest income of $16.71. We had checks and online bill payments and payroll that came up to $5,321.45. There were no outstanding checks at the end of April and no outstanding checks at the end of May. So the balance at the end of May was $2,988.89. The capital reserve account balance as of May 31st was $94,288.09. The operating reserve account balance, $4,086.63, and the trust account balance, $32,960.91. Accounts payable, under the utility operating fund as of the end of May was $144.90, and the accounts receivable, $7,125.
Thank you. Can I get a mover?
M 2025-06-23-62, that the financial report be accepted as presented and the accounts payable be paid.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Thank you, Clerk Treasurer. So we are on to motions and resolutions. 9.1. Councilor Berg, did you say this was one that you were looking to put forth? The cancellation? I thought you did.
I don't have a problem reading it. M 2025-06-23-63, that the Village of Beldoon cancel scheduled committee of the whole and regular council meetings for the month of July 2025.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. 9.2, per diem for orientation for newly elected officials. Can I get a mover, please?
M 2025-06-23-64, that council approves the use of per diem for Councillor Don Hickey to attend the orientation for the newly elected official in Barry Mills, New Brunswick, on June 21st, 2025.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Have a good conference, Councillor Hickey, in Barry Mills.
Yeah, it was on the weekend. I got lost.
9.3, the purchase of SCBA equipment. Can I get a mover?
M 2025-06-23-65, that council approve the purchase of the SCBA equipment from Safety Source Fire Inc. for the amount of $81,870 plus HST.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. 9.4, asphalt hot box purchase. Can I get a mover?
M 2025-06-23-66, that the Village of Beldoon approve to purchase of a KM International 4-ton trailer hot box from Sounders Equipment Limited for the amount of $55,150 plus HST.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
On the question. Just a comment or two. This to me is a really good purchase for us. And it's past due, but for the people who are watching, it just means that we're going to be able to get the smaller patching jobs without having to wait. And I think that's going to release a lot of frustration in some cases. So this is a real good purchase for us. Next. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
do have a question, Your Worship. Highway 134 does not, the asphalt part does not belong to the Village of Beldoon. Will we have the option of dealing with some of those potholes, or are we obligated to leave that to DTI?
Well, that's a good question, and I think it's a, like, sometimes we wait for DTI. And I think it would be a good conversation for CEO Lee to have and to come back to us and ask them, say, listen, we have some solutions to issues that you may not be able to get to. Can we take the initiative and do that? Now, on their side, there may be some liability issues, right? And when I talked a while ago about fixing guardrails, for example, well, there may be liability issues related to that, because that's a safety concern. And DTI may have standards and say, well, there's no way we can assure that if you're gonna fix those on your own, that those standards can be met. But it's worth the conversation to ask and say, if we have the ability to patch, for example, do we have to wait for you? Because they may say, no, go ahead and do it, right? And so let's get CAO Lee to have that conversation, because that's something we should know. Especially if we bought the equipment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, next is the Appeals Committee Co-Chair appointment.
Did we vote on it?
My apologies. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. Now we're getting to the Appeals Committee Co-Chair appointment.
M 2025-06-23-67, that the Council of the Village of Beldoon appoints Shauna Hickey as the co-chair of the Appeal Committee for the Dangerous or Unsightly Premises.
Seconder,
I'll second it.
on the question. I do have one for Mike, since you're out there, just to ask you. Is there a maximum number of people on the Appeals Committee? Like, is there a ceiling?
No, I highly recommend that the council continue to put out
Okay,
names, because should something happen that 2 people are not available, then the meeting can't go.
yeah, okay, well, that's what I was thinking, so I think that's what we need to do, is to encourage. Mike, do you wanna come up and just? None of that would be recorded. Yeah, because none of that's recorded, but if you can come up and just so the people at home would know.
Yes, so right now, with the amount of people that we have, in the event that there should be 2 people not available, then the meetings can occur. So I highly recommend that the council put out and continue to put out call-outs for people to volunteer for this committee, so that we have a number of people to pick from.
And that's what we shall do. We gotta, okay, so, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Then we have an appointment for, Shauna as the co-chair. All right, general correspondence.
Okay, so we just had some correspondence in for the month. So we have the SPCA report, the Chaleur Regional Service Commission building permit report, and the Universal Rail Systems track inspection report.
Okay, that's it. No motion with that. So I guess we have the motion to adjourn.
M 2025-06-23-68, that the meeting is adjourned at 8 o'clock.
Seconder.
I'll second it.
On the question, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed, meeting adjourned.